Hello, everybody, and welcome to Money Matters. If you enjoy making money and like learning about crypto and other investment topics, please subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy the content, then click that like button as well. Let's jump into it. And as a disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, nor do I give financial advice. Excuse me, looking at the market, I'm still in recovery mode from the massive turmoil that we've been experiencing over the last few days, but it does seem to be settling a bit. I'm hoping that we can move Bitcoin up to around the $40,000 mark. We're going to be talking about the Bitcoin chart here in just a moment, but I think that there's been a combination of things that have happened at the same time that have caused this drastic drop after the major drop. I was absolutely thrown down to see that yesterday when we had that massive drop again, especially in the altcoins. The only thing I could attribute it to was people who had been in there since last March when altcoins were really low, got in when Bitcoin was down and when Ethereum was down, and they just sold out and took some profits. That's the only thing that I can see. I haven't found anything anywhere that's indicated anybody manipulating the market in a major way. But I think it was just kind of like an aftershock, so to speak, from the initial drop on earlier in the week. So there was one interesting project that showed up in the top 10, which is ICP, one of my favorite projects. I've been looking at it for quite some time. The appealing thing about it to me is it's kind of like the new internet on a decentralized platform. So I think it's going to be something that's pretty cool. Not only that, it has a relatively low market cap. So I'm thinking that the price could be going up quite a bit over the next year or so. Although if you do look at the original chart, after it launched, it just tanked. And I think that kind of scared a lot of people off. But I still think it's a great project. I'll be investing in it. I can't do anything right now because everything's all tied up. Although I did manage to scrape up some extra dollars to throw into Cardano. I was pretty excited to see that it had dropped so far, and I'm still sticking by my $5 by the end of the summer kind of thing. And I certainly do think that $10 is within the realm of possibilities, especially after they get their smart contracts up and running. So anyway, if you have dry powder and the prices are still down, this is a great time to get in. Just think of it as if you got in last March. That's where we are right now. It's a great time to buy if you're not tied up. And for God's sakes, don't sell. It will go back up. Don't panic. Just ride the storm out. Let's take a look at the news. Outside of the massive loss, or speaking of the massive loss this week, almost $400 billion was eradicated. And that doesn't count this last series of events. So all in all, we're looking at a drop that rivals that of last March when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. So this is not a trivial matter. This is very significant. It's really affected a lot of people. And I think it's surprised more people than anything else. I knew that there was a lot of, euphoria in the market leading up to this point. And of course, when you see that green candle just going up and up and up and up, you can forget what that red candle looks like, especially when it gets really long and going down. So I think that we're going to swing back on track. I do think that there's still a lot of time left in this bull market. It is going to be extended. It's going to be flattened out compared to previous bull markets just because of the nature of the beast. Diminishing returns as you go forward, and with massive investments coming in from institutions, it's really changed the timing of everything. I think July is going to be a big, huge indicator of what's to come for the rest of the year when a lot of other institutions start putting money in and pushing up the price. So we'll see how that goes, but that's kind of how it's playing out so far. Again, we were close to collapse and I just wanted to mention this with respect to Bitcoin, but we seem to find some pretty good stability at around the $30,000 mark, which was a good indicator. I remember saying, I think it was in December, or anyway, right after we started going up past 40,000, that Bitcoin would never drop below 30,000 again. Of course, never say never. Next thing you know, it drops below 30,000. But my bullish thoughts were that with the institutional buyers coming in, the support is going to be so high. People are going to be sucking up every wick that comes around at the lower prices that it just won't fall. The support's going to build up. And of course, over time, that support does build up. And we're still in the volatile early stages of this market. So it could fluctuate, but as time goes by, that floor should jump up. And again, I think our working floor is about 42. So yeah, we have to get there, but once we get there, I think that's going to be a good sign. Wells Fargo, which is, I think it's my most hated bank of all, announced plans to roll out some managed crypto portfolio investment tools for some of their very wealthy individuals, which I thought was kind of funny because if I'm not mistaken, Berkshire Hathaway either owns outright Wells Fargo or owns a tremendous amount of it. And of course, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, I think is his name, his partner in crime, do not like cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. So I can't imagine that they would feel too good about one of their portfolio members jumping on the crypto bandwagon. But nonetheless, you have to give them credit for that. They were able to pull it together for the few folks that they have tons of money in order not to lose them, I suppose. This I thought was kind of interesting, and I've heard rumblings of this just this week. It started to come up, but the Fed is looking into a CBDC for the United States. I can't imagine that we would ever have a central cryptocurrency that would be adopted. It would be very difficult to do on behalf of the government just because it's going to be hard to fool people to that level in this country. They can do it in China because they can do whatever hell they want there. But here, Americans just aren't going to fall for it. So I think they will do it. They'll roll something out. I've heard wild speculation that Facebook has something to do with this, which would make it even worse. I can't imagine Facebook doing anything that would benefit anybody in any way, especially with respect to finance or cryptocurrency or financial systems in general. So I would expect that they do pull together, though, and come up with some sort of a central cryptocurrency for the United States. However, I don't think it will ever be adopted. If it is, it's probably going to be adopted by certain segments, maybe at the most. But I don't think that it will affect the crypto market in general. And with DeFi coming on board and scaling up, the government would never be able to compete with it. So I don't think it's a threat. I think it's great that they have an open mind and they're looking at some solutioning ideas with respect to crypto, but I just don't think this is the way to go. So how do we get out of this? What's the path forward? So I pulled this chart pretty late in the day, and this is the Bitcoin price chart. And what I wanted to show in particular was a range. And I think trend lines are useful in a lot of different scenarios when you're looking at technical analysis. And this is a good example of it. I'm not really sure why the lines look so faint, but there's two horizontal yellow lines that I put on here that kind of show a trough or a pipeline that Bitcoin is starting to gravitate towards. And you'll notice in previous charts throughout the year that we go through phases where we'll move sideways, but this one is really very strong. And I'm saying strong because it has a very hard time pulling up above that resistance level at the top, right around 40, it's about 40,000 or 41, somewhere right around there. And of course, even if you mark that drop, the big drop that's on here, there's two matching drops that help to outline that floor, which is good because you can see it wicking down after the major drop, but it's not closing down, which is a very good sign. The other good sign is, as you can see, the medium point for fluctuation tends to be towards the center of the trough. So that indicates more stability as well. Now, I don't know if you use a lot of trend analysis. I use TradingView. It's a fantastic tool. And most of the people I know who follow crypto use it, and even stock portfolios as well. It's just a great analysis tool. But I usually keep RSI turned up on mine because I like to see different comparisons for different parts of trends, excuse me, and try to understand associations and predict things that might be coming up based on those indicators. But if you look at this, especially on the bottom right-hand side, this RSI line, it seems as though it's a more shallow kind of indicator as we start to level out with respect to volatility. So even though it's going down, my thought here would be that it would go down maybe to bounce off and come back up, but I don't see us falling below that support level, which is right around 30,000, I think or 31,000. So we should stay in that range. My hope is as soon as we start to break up past 40, things will start to go back to normal very, very quickly. And I know that there's two schools of thought of how we're going to come out of this. One would be a V bottom, which we didn't quite do here yet, but we still could follow into that. Or we could just kind of level out and meander about horizontally for quite a few weeks or months until we start to break to the upside. I really couldn't tell you. There's pros and cons for both. And I'm always thinking about altcoins at this particular time. I'm heavily invested in them just because of the plan that I put together before the year. So how Bitcoin acts and reacts to the market really is going to move and drive that altcoin. The rest of the altcoin season, I'm refusing to believe that it's over, but I do think it's going to be a struggle to get back up there. And some sort of a key event like the FCC being thrown out in their ear with the XRP case or some other really good news would really be all that we need to kind of turn the boat around, because the fundamentals, the underlying demand is still there. There was just a lot of fear that came out when the collapse started to happen. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Fear and greed, and why it's so important to you. There's a number of different sites and indicators that you can find online that talk about the general sentiment of the market. So that would be people are greedy. They're just, oh my gosh, we're making so much money, or they're afraid I got to sell even though I'm selling at a loss so I can get out so I don't lose everything. I'll lose half, but I don't want to lose everything. So it's a good indicator. And the reason I say this is because outside of everything, what drives the market? People. That's, well, bots, but bots program those, or bots are programmed those people, but people and their sentiment, their emotions, their logical thinking, their research, that's what drives the market. That's what drives supply and demand and all those other economic factors. So and I have a link in the description for this site, so you can go to it and look at it at any point in time. They have a bunch of different things in this associated with their website, but this particular one deals just with fear and greed within the cryptocurrency market. And it's basically an index. And you can learn a lot depending upon where we are in the little range. So if you see the dial right now is at 12, that's the lowest I've ever seen. I've never seen it that low in my life. And of course, as sentiment goes to the greedy side and people are happy and things are going great, it tends to go into the green. And it can vacillate back and forth fairly quickly depending upon events in the world or what's happening within the crypto space by itself. But just as a general rule, extreme fear, which is where we are now, would be, and it's kind of obvious once you think about it, but it could be a buying opportunity. It is a buying opportunity. When prices go to 40, 60% lower than they were a week before, that's a good opportunity to buy something and hold on to it till it goes back up. On the other side, if things are too greedy, if people are greedy and everything's going great and everything's in the green, you can guarantee that you're getting close to a correction. Just like that Ethereum chart. I mean, you can't see a green going straight up and not coming down. You think it's not coming down. I thought it wasn't coming down, but it did. So that's why you always want to take profits on the way up and then cost average back in on the way down. So it's a good philosophy to live by. But those are the two general kind of indicators or methods of looking at this indicator, I should say. This is, I'm so sorry this turned out so faint, but there's on the bottom white screen, there's a trend line. And what that is an indicator of is that's just a graph of the previous chart that we looked at. So it's an indicator, a historical indicator of that fear and greed level over time. And it just goes up and down, up and down. And what I did was I imposed the Bitcoin price chart up above it so that you could see some relative association. So I put blue arrows to show the dips because they're a little easier to dramatically point out. But as you can see from Bitcoin price chart down to the greed fear chart, those dips almost perfectly line up. And it makes sense if you think about it. But what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is the dip coming and then people are getting scared, or is it trending down and then the price follows with it? So you really have to look at it and then kind of get your timing right, and then look at other environmental meaning global things that may be affecting the price or people's sentiment. A pandemic coming in didn't help the matter. That threw everybody into a tailspin. So it's interesting to see that there is a fairly close association or correlation between these two indicators. So how is this calculated? How do they come up with this dial indicator? Well, they have 5 or so parameters that they look at, or different data points that they look at. And I found this very interesting. Volatility is about 25% weighting, and that's market momentum with volume. So are people buying a lot? Are people selling a lot? The momentum of the market, that's what we're talking about there. I'm sorry, volatility. The momentum, market momentum, is high buying volumes in a positive market, and of course, opposite is true in bearish markets. But basically, if the buying volumes are high, greed is high, and the market is very bullish. That's common sense. Everybody kind of knows that. So that has a 25% weight too. So we have volatility, and then we have the market momentum as that's 50% of what we're looking at here anyway. Social media, 15%. What are people talking about? Are they talking in the crypto world? Are they talking about, prices going up forever? Oh my gosh, Dogecoin is going to go up and never come down. Elon Musk is great. Or, Bitcoin is going to the moon. What are they talking about? Is it positive or negative? That can have an effect, of course, psychologically on the market. So that has a weight of 15%. Surveys, which this company does use surveys, they actually poll people and ask them, how do you feel about the market? Hey, how do you feel about the market? Well, I feel pretty good. Bitcoin's up $30,000. I'm making money. Or if anybody asked anybody now, they would be crying or desperately looking for some sort of a way to get all their money back, or at least think their money's coming back if they haven't sold, which it will. So surveys, which I thought was a pretty straightforward thought as well. Dominance. Now, we've talked about this in previous videos with respect to how Bitcoin dominance affects pricing with altcoins and what's happening in the market. The flow of money is what the topic was. But with respect to dominance, especially Bitcoin, greed is, if Bitcoin dominance is low, if it's falling, then greed is very high. If it's rising, then fear is very high. And there, if you look back at that chart that we looked at previous, it does correlate with that. We already knew that. We've talked about it. And then trends, Google search trends. What are people looking for? I know that there's a lot of comparison between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Who's looking at what now? And that tends to show where people's focus is and where the money's going to go. Or if people are looking up EOS and Dogecoin and all these other altcoins, well, I think that the idea is people are interested in taking money out of Bitcoin and putting it into altcoins where they can make some massive gains. So let's recap what we've talked about here. Though we're not completely out of the woods, which we are not. However, I think we're out of the dark mere forest. Mirkwood. That was in Lord of the Rings, Mirkwood. Mere Forest is an actual forest outside of San Francisco, which is absolutely beautiful. Anyway, volatility seems to be going within the trough for Bitcoin. So I think all things will follow. Ethereum is still detached, so I don't think they were hit quite as hard, and I think it's going to come back in a little different fashion. But I think the altcoins will start to stabilize too as Bitcoin stabilizes within that trough. And once we get into solid support area and that we're going horizontal for a bit, I think we'll poke our head up above 40. And once we do that, we're getting close above 40. I think sentiment's going to change substantially, and then the price is going to start to push up. And it could push up in one, fell swoop, like a steep incline, or it could kind of meander up over time. My guess is it's going to probably be the meandering up type, especially if we're looking for hitting those all-time Bitcoin highs at the end of the year or early part of 2022. So that'll be interesting to see. We looked at the importance of understanding the psyche of the market. That's the people part of the market. What are people thinking? What are they feeling? Because if they're feeling one way or another, they can certainly drive the market instantaneously from one point to another point. And we've seen it over and over again. And when we're talking about large amounts of money, it can escalate very, very quickly. And another thing to remember is times like these, where we lose a lot of money, paper money, if you're not selling, have to happen in order for us to have the opportunity to buy these assets at a low price, so that when the price does go up in the future, we make money. And again, it's good to come up with a plan. It's good to understand, to be strategic about how you take your profits. Don't wait till the very top and try to top it. Take out some profits as you go along. And then when it comes down, jump back in and do the same thing over and over again with all the different coins and projects that you're looking at. It gives you the opportunity to spread your risk, number one, spread your timing, because not every coin takes off or drops at the same time, usually outside of this week, but they typically roam on their own. So there's a lot of opportunities to make money in a lot of different ways, but you need to just take a look at the market and say, Bitcoin is not going to be gone tomorrow. I mean, think about how you felt in March of 2020. Oh my gosh, the stock market's not going to be around tomorrow. So it doesn't matter what the newspapers say, what the news says, what Google says. It's going to go back up. You have to go down to go up. It's not one steady, one way, one direction arrow. So you have to be able to adapt and be patient and relax. It's going to be fine. And please, 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 don't sell into the dip. It's a mistake. It's how people lose their money. It is how you go broke. Just stay strong. You bought something for a reason. You made a decision to do it. Stick to your plan and it'll be all right. I would love to hear from you. If you could leave a comment and let me know how you fared during this correction. I can tell you that my entire portfolio dropped astronomically. With no exception. There was no exception. However, I did take the opportunity with the little dry powder I had on the sidelines to jump in and buy some Cardano. So everything's already started to turn around quite a bit from the lowest point. And I'm sure that those of you who are out there experience the same thing or kind of seeing the same thing. But drop a comment in the comment section so we can we see what everybody else is experiencing. And last but not least, winners never quit, and quitters, they never win. Always give your very best effort to overcome the challenges that you face in life. I hope you had a great day. I had a fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow.